So this is how the Essentials curriculum is structured. First of all, we have essential opportunities. Every subject has a section which the old national curriculum would have called breadth of study. This is important to demarcate this as opposed to programs of study because in breadth of study we have coverage. Coverage can be monitored, but it can't be assessed. So we've identified from the national curriculum programs of study the areas that we feel are coverage, important to monitor, but not part of our assessment procedures. What we are going to assess in the Essentials curriculum is children's learning. So we used the purpose and aims of study section to identify key learning objectives. These learning objectives aren't particular to a year group, they're common to every year group. And in that way, we get lots of repetition of them, and every day we're advancing understanding of them a little bit further. So, learning objectives in the Essentials curriculum are never achieved, but advanced further and further. And to show advancements, we have 3 milestones. Milestone 1, 2 and 3. Milestone 1 is where we want children to be by the end of year 2, milestone 2 by the end of year 4, and milestone 3 by the end of year 6. So in one way, we can show progress by moving through the milestones. But of course, that's not going to happen quickly because each milestone is a 2-year program. So within each milestone, we're acknowledging why the government got rid of levels and we're focusing on depth of learning. So we would be learning a learning objective to a milestone 1 standard, for example, and within milestone 1, we could have 3 depths of learning. We call these 3 cognitive domains of basic, advancing, and deep learning. The basic cognitive domain is very instructional. It's about children following instructions. It's about children employing lower order thinking skills. It's an access level of learning and it's an important level of learning, but it won't get children to the national expectation. For that, they need to move into the advancing stage of development, which is fluency. It's using and applying and pretty much remembering the vast majority of the curriculum and how to apply it to lots of different situations. But even when children are at the advancing stage of development, rather than moving them to the next milestone, the recommendation we have is to further deepen children's understanding. This is what the government are talking about in terms of mastery as well. This is all about children solving non-routine problems, being able to think in a more abstract nature, and crucially seeing the interconnected nature of a subject, both within that subject and its connection with other areas of learning as well. So there's 3 cognitive domains of basic, advancing and deep run through the assessment procedure of the Essentials curriculum. And what depthoflearning.com is trying to do is to assign some sort of numeric value to those 3 cognitive domains so that leaders can keep a track on children's depth of learning. So we assign a depth of learning index from point 1 through to point 6 on each of the milestones. The difference between basic 1 and basic 2 is that at basic 1 you have some examples of a child at that stage of development, and at basic 2 you have widespread examples. The same with advancing. Point 3 is some examples of the advancing stage of development, and point 4 is widespread examples. And the same idea with deep. To reach the national expectation by the end of the key stage, children should have a depth of learning index of at least 4. But even if they do get to 4 early on in the key stage, what we recommend is we stick with the same content and further deepen children's understanding so that they move through points 5 and point 6. To measure progress, we use a cumulative depth of learning index, which takes their current depth of learning index from milestone 1 and then adds it to the new depth of learning index for milestone 2. So in that way, we can keep an eye on where they got to from the last milestone and add that to their new milestone indicator from the current depth of learning index.